Hello, people of Thetis. We are here, Robert James Fremantle, bringing you session 62 of Dragon Age Vidcast. It's lo-fi, decidedly so, because still we have no titles to show. And I am wearing cool t-shirt of the month, Plants vs. Zombies. Get in. So, were there any plants or zombies in this one? Well, there was one of them. Guess which? And let's get moving on with what happened here. We last left the guys in Black Sand. They just completed the Fighting Fantasy conversion into Age, the pack I released over 3 video sessions. We did it, in fact, and I released the conversion pack online, and the whole thing's been put out there for everyone. And these things have also been released on Dragon Age Oracle, of which I have recently taken over admin of and put out a few videos, put a few of those videos up. In fact, I didn't do the Black Sand ones, but done a few articles based on this sort of thing, and I put the article up linking to that. Now, in this one, we'll have another thing to link you. But, well, if you want to get it open so you can follow along, get hold of the free PDF that was written by Chris Pramas of Green Ronin. It is easy to get hold of, you know. You don't have to be a member or anything, I don't think. Called Duty Unto Death. In fact, the other way to do it is probably just to click the bar below, because I should hopefully put it in there for you. All right, okay, so they're still in Black Sand, though, which is all the way up in Rivain. What are we going to do about that situation? And, of course, the plague has taken hold. Everyone's taking their tests to see if that's going to affect them. And because basically all of Black Sand now has succumbed. It's a serious epidemic. People are falling afoul to it across the city, and they came up with the idea of the group. Why don't we go to Nicodemus, see if he has an idea? And of course, Nicodemus is ill with it, very sick. You know, he may never be the same as a result of it. It's a serious plague they're going through right now. And there's no way out of the city. It's just locked down. So the players had a problem straight from the off. What were they going to do? Well, you know, the thing was, money can solve a lot. And even though the gates had been locked, and even though the docks had been locked out, there were still illegal operations going out of the city. But they still wanted to make sure that the group, you know, didn't have the plague. They wanted their doctors to check them in this. Well, the group had not caught it, except for a couple that obviously had previously had it, and that was Karak and Tanador. Tanador managed to get over it without too much, this particular type of plague. Karak was going to get unlucky, did suffer with it, but in the end, all of the things that affected him were pretty much superficial. You know, the blotches, the lumps on the face, and the pallid colour, and, you know, kind of scarred lungs for a bit, and this, but no long-lasting effects to speak of. So the only one that did actually get unlucky was Pete's new character of Yellow Eye. Now he's just come in, obviously, and he's, you know, he's the pirate from Scarbelly's Lodden, you know, the Freeport. They could follow them to Rivain to try and whoop their asses, and you know, now joined the group, of course. We didn't have Chris present, by the way. He had to go to a party, so still, you know, the issue was the unknown, unnamed mage. I was just distracted there a moment because I think the dog just left the room. And now I can see. You forgot your hands and knees crawling. Looking at me as it, anyway. Right. So I've never seen the doggy paddle out of water. Right. Anyway, totally threw me that. Moving on. What we have here, Pete. Poor Pete. It's always Pete, isn't it? And his character did succumb to it, and he rolled really poorly on his tests, and the dice just punished him. And in the end, he ended up with really bad bone scarring and problems going on, and he ended up losing pretty much permanently to dexterity. Yeah, severe, huh? And that's like his bones solidifying and scarring and doing all these horrible, nasty things. And uh, I gave him 2,000 experience for for the ache of it, but still, I guess that wasn't nice for him. Makes him that bit easier to hit, and of course he's a marksman, so it's that bit more difficult to hit. So one of the first things he wanted to do if he was going to get out of here was get hold of some enchanted bolts, basically, that do +2 damage. The ones that you can see in set 2. Because then he gets his damage back, really. So, anyway, they get out of the city eventually by talking their way out. They've got over it in the end, but those are the lasting results. No one's actually dead from it. And they bought a good makeup disguise kit and dabbed their skin to make it look healthier than it was, and convinced them that they were okay to board this illegal ship leaving in the night, and they escaped Ravane. Money talks. They paid all in all with the makeup like 36 gold to get out of there total as a group. So that's some pretty serious money. Which actually, when you think it's all of them, they cut them a pretty good deal, frankly. Well, anyway, anyway, they got back to Denerim, and there wasn't much time to get the debriefs and things sorted, because Duncan was waiting for the group. And this is where we get into duty unto death, because Duncan said, right, Carrack, we have a mission. We are to go out and meet an Orlesian warden and his group. We are to meet with them and bring them into Ferelden. So we're going to the other side, near the Frostback Mountains, and you're to come with me, and I'm sort of training you up so that you can do this kind of role, because I think you'll probably be skilled at it. You've had a lot of life experience. So Carrack was interested in that, and so they get on the road together, and off they go. So it's Duncan and the group together. So at one point, as they're going along the road, they see a familiar-looking elf coming the other way. It's none other than Nimderana, as the elves call him, mysteriously. The elf that keeps turning up now and then, and the group were even having a discussion about it, saying, look, we still don't know what the deal is with this guy. He just turns up from time to time, this Dalish wanderer, and leaves again, and he seems to know more about what's going on than he should do. And he made references to, he's walking the other way, and they said, oh yeah, you always seem to be walking away from something that we're heading towards. And don't tell me you're going to advise that the path up ahead shouldn't be walked. And he said, well, I wouldn't. And yeah, it's very funny like that. And they said, see, told you. So yeah, they're getting used to his shtick now. That's quite funny. They're playing him, and but he's still keeping his cool quite well. And I think they're a little bit too disturbed by the fact that they keep meeting him anyway. So I think they're sort of on guard or whatever with him. Mm. So they they had a little chat, and he said about books, and he's been reading a lot of books. And he met Yellow Eye and said, you're new, aren't you, to the group, and all this sort of thing going on. And he did give a warning about the mountain range. He said, look, it's like a frozen block there, like nothing you've ever seen up there. And something has happened to around the Redhold area, that the southern tribes have attacked Redhold majorly, en masse, and the Redhold supporters are, as we speak right now, fighting them as part of the War of the Axis campaign, because the South are currently allied with the Chastened, trying to fight the North. And yeah, pretty nasty stuff going on between them. They've blockaded Redhold in, and some huge spell seems to have been cast. It can't be natural, this huge ice event, where like a massive ice cube effectively is surrounding Redhold and turned it into just a one massive igloo. And then all of this ice stuff is just permeating out of it, and just like the frost just makes your bones ache before you can even get near it. It's terribly cold. That it exudes. Whoops, rocking about there, aren't we? Exudes outwards, and that's kind of, it might be them trying to buy time, or something's going on, but they've had to seal themselves in. And he said, look, they're talking about you, Karak. They're talking about you. You're a wanted man. If they see you, they're going to want to do you in. Certainly, most certainly. And anyway, he said, well, we're not going into the mountain range anyway. We're passing around it. We're going to go by somewhere just off the Imperial Highway between there and Orzammar, kind of thing. So we can see the mountains and see the state of all the ice and the nasty thing that's going on. But we'll be all right. Let them get on with it. We shouldn't see any Avar. There shouldn't be any problem. So off they go down the road, and Nimderana leaves them. And Duncan has unfortunately had to leave as well. He'd had a communication of some mysterious sort that only the Wardens have, in their mysterious ways that they have them, and telling him that he's got to get back to the city immediately. He's got to leave. There's a sudden emergency to deal with. I wonder what that could be. How very interesting for him. But it does leave Karak with the unfortunate task of having to complete the mission and be Ferelden's Grey Warden envoy to Aldrich Lapointe, coming into Ferelden. And this is a pretty good little module, actually. You might have also seen this module played on tabletop with the likes of Will Wheaton and Felicia Day when they did the Dragon Age tabletop special for that. If you haven't seen it and you're interested in like live play, that's worth checking out, definitely. Also, that's the guy that wrote it and runs Green Ronin, Chris Pramas, is GMing it, so you don't get better than that, do you? And yeah, I tried to put my own spin on it somewhat, because things had to be adapted for this group, because obviously in that it's a lower level, these guys are level 10, so there was changes had to be made. The originals implies that everybody's a Grey Warden, and in our group only one person's a Grey Warden, so it's like the Warden and his group, in the same way that we saw in Dragon Age Origins, where we had the hero of Ferelden and his party. So yeah, this is kind of the Karak show at the moment. He's got to push this forward and complete the mission for the Grey Wardens, bring Aldrich Lapointe back safely. So, on the way, they see an Avar waiting for them on the road with a big old axe. And and he's hefting it about, and then he addresses them. And he's not too smart. He doesn't have too much upstairs. But Tanador decides to step forward and face him off, and they introduce each other, and he's like, "I'm Tanador of Tigerhold," and the other was like, "Well, I'm of Stormhold, and you're on my path." And the group try to be a bit mouthy and say, "Well, this isn't anybody's path, but we're all sharing it together, and just bugger off," and that kind of attitude, of course. And he's standing on his own, and he's saying, "Look, you can give me all your money, all your supplies, everything, or we attack." And my boys, they're all waiting on the order. Well, the group weren't going to hear of it. And in the end, he gets pissed off and he shouts, "Attack!" like that, and points his axe at them. And nothing happens. And then he goes, "Attack!" He starts looking around, sort of like, what's going on? He looks to the rocks, to the sides there, that these men are supposed to have sprung the trap from, his avars with their bows, and they aren't coming to his aid. Next thing they know, Tanador starts walking towards the guy to have it out with him, and a large claw thing pierces straight through the guy's stomach from behind, and it retracts and twists the guy backwards, and he falls and hits the ground, revealing a shriek. It's crouched low, it's got its claws ready, and it attacks, and then more start jumping in for the attack. Now, what I've reasoned is the reason that the Shrieks were attacking was because they thought Duncan was coming. And Karak did get an indication that Darkspawn were about to attack, so they were kind of prepared for it because of his warden senses and things. But yeah, they thought they were going to have a chance at killing Duncan. They only sensed one warden when they got there, so they had to try and take down Karak. So they worked through the party, and then they jumped Karak. And he's going down quickly. His health is not lasting, and then reinforcements are pouring in. The group, though, are stepping into battle and wiping them out gorgeously. Another thing that I started doing in this, actually, was I robbed one of the mechanics that I read from Fantasy Flight Games' Star Wars Edge of the Empire. Now, what that is the mechanic is for doing large combats of the same kind of enemy. So when you've got like groups of minions, running it so that you don't have to keep individual health tabs all over the board, and that you run it as each minion's health worth adds to one big pool, and then when one minion's health worth has come off, you minus the amount of enemies there by 1, and you keep it going. So you effectively turn lots and lots of minions into one boss health pool, but they act as multiple separate attacks, and people can attack them from different angles depending on where they're standing, sort of thing. And it kind of works out better that way. It makes some people appear to have more HP than others, which you would really actually find in real life. So it's then a case of matching up the big damage properly. The other cool thing, though, with Star Wars that really takes advantage of that is the fact that the group can actually choose their initiative orders. So they roll for initiative, but it's not like this character, that character, and this NPC type, and then this boss, and then that character, like sort of normal initiative order. You instead you roll for slots. So you'd have like, oh, that's a PC slot, PC slot, PC slot, boss, PC slot, like that. Yeah, let's just say it came out that way. And then each turn, whoever can select that first slot, and whoever can select the second slot, any PC, and it can vary each round. So that's interesting. I can see those two being utilised better together. So I could actually even try bringing that in, couldn't I? The other thing I was actually thinking of experimenting with in Dragon Age was the force points thing. If you don't know how that works, it's probably best not to explain it in this video, but effectively giving advantages and disadvantages and players and GM having a shared pool and getting to push their luck, and if as one does one thing, it empowers the other. So if you want a bonus, you empower the opposite thing that could go against you, and this sort of it's an interesting balancing act. Yeah, lots of opportunities and thoughts there. Anyway, they're all on Karak and they're stabbing him, doing him in. There's not much he can do. I mean, there are things he could do actually. I mean, he can use stunts and shield himself and do all of those kind of things, but he's more worried about pouring out damage and hurting things. Well, Amelia managed to get in amongst them, as it were, and use the threaten stunt as well, and pull a load onto her. And obviously you can't use it en masse, but I've been running something with dragon points, so they can regen their dragon points when they roll a natural 18, and you have as many dragon points as you have levels. And the rolling a natural 18 in a test is the only way you can ever regain or gain dragon points back up to the cap that is your current level. And obviously when you level, whenever you go ding, you obviously gain 1 dragon point. At that point your cap raises by 1, but aside from that, you don't get any back. And the dragon points allow re-rolls and things like that, but sometimes I've allowed like extraordinary things to happen for the players to spend their dragon points. So in this case, Amelia said, well, I want to try and taunt this 5 of them off of him so they can't do a finisher on him, so they can't coup de grace him. And I said, well, all right, you can try making your threatened stunt go out. I mean, you rolled a 6 there on the stunt proc, so I would require you to spend all of your stunt points to do it, and a d6 worth of your dragon points, which is it's a big deal because he's a level 10, and these things can really help them. Lucky for him, I rolled a 1, so he only had to spend 1 dragon point. And you didn't know that, did you, Lahori? You had the knife edge of possibly having 6 to spend there, or not do it. So brought them onto him, saved Carrick in the nick of time. Tanador managed to get over there and apply bandages. I think the group were reluctant to try pouring potions down Carrack's neck because that hasn't been going so well. He's choked a couple of times and he almost died, like the last time I think it was. And it's very risky, but Tanadors doesn't want to muck about with bandages. He's like, look, I'm not Mother Teresa or whatever. His excuse, I don't even bloody remember. So they got him stabilized effectively, not much healing going on at all there, just stabilized. And then they cut a few more of them down and the shrieks dispersed. They saw that their attack had failed. So off they go, back off towards the mountains, splitting up, mind you, so they can't be followed properly. And the group decide to carry on their way. Carrack heals up and pushes on. Well, anyway, eventually they came to the village of Greenthorn, and they came out on a high area looking down on it. There were a load of carrion birds circling around in the sky, and across the way from the village there is this tower, and they don't see anybody alive in the village, signs of activity or anything like that. But as they're poking around, and it's quite dark, it's about maybe like 11 p.m. or so, and they get into the village and find 4 dead soldiers, warriors, and 5 dead horses. So they work out, right, there's one guy not accounted for here. Where is he? And then they hear the sound of fighting, and that's what obviously the carrion birds are swirling all around the square where these guys are situated, and the fighting's going on at an inn, at the very inn that they had to meet Aldrich Lapointe at, the Queen's Boot. Funnily enough, so off they go to it, and they find the bar wench is fighting for her life with nice cleaver in her hand, and she's taking undead out, swipe after swipe, and the undead start coming around the buildings and coming after the group. So they start closing in like a swarm, and you know, a devouring swarm of locusts that want to eat human flesh, as it were, you know. And they board themselves up into the inn, you know, finish off the last few there, and they pull them away, and you know, chop them up and throw them out the door and the window, and then they lock it all up. And finally she has an opportunity to lock it all up, and she tells them, look, I've been trying to hold out here. All the troubles happened pretty much since the tower arrived 3 days ago. It didn't used to be there, now it is there. There's a tower there. What gives? And the group said, right, that's ominous. That's going to be it right there, the tower. So they say, are you going to be all right? And she says, yeah, I'm going to board myself in. They won't be able to get in now. I'm going to hold upstairs as well, just as an extra precaution. And hopefully when you deal with whatever's in that tower, it should stop all of this. Yeah. The only thing is that our pirate friend, our marksman, Talvashoth, Yellow Eye, decided he was going to stay out in the village, not board himself up, because he didn't know there were undead there at this point. So he was hiding out up top, trying to take an Overwatch type position. And you know, he sees all these undead wandering around, and he didn't want to obviously get caught by them. So I had to do tests to see if he can stealth properly, to not be spotted, and not get discovered, and have a horde of like 40 devouring corpses on him, which would have been funny. Pete, oh Pete, he just passed. In this particular case, he needed a target number 15, and he was like, I rolled 13, and I just gulped, and I was like, oh, Pete. And he said, wait a minute, I've got the focus or whatever, sort of thing. Wait, 15. I said, 15 is what you needed. I don't say the target number to the players before I tell them what it is. I say, whatever, like you need a dexterity stealth test, whatever, right? And I don't tell them the target number, because for me that allows people to say yes, passed, and sometimes they can be a bit lazy with the maths. So if they can get things wrong, and all sorts of things like that can happen. Some people will call it what they'll call it. Some people will call it cheating and call it whatever. Either way, I can stop that from happening by not giving them a target number. And in a way, I mean, sometimes I do give them the target number, but you know, it's my option. It's a GM prerogative, and because of the way the system is, I don't have to state what the target number is, like some other systems where the difficulty has to be upfront and obvious, such as the aforementioned, actually, Star Wars, because that's how many difficulty dice I've rolled. Although saying that, the GM could roll a few extra difficulty dice himself to account for hidden difficulty. Interesting. Anyway, right. So then we've got the Pete's all right, he hasn't been found. The group managed to meet up with him back over at the tower, and they decide they're going to have to go in. They can't find another way in. They were trying. Tanador was looking for a way in. He started at the door, and he started going around the tower. No door, no door, no door. He's walking around the tower still. No door, no door, no door. And he comes to a door, and he's really, really excited. Whoa, a door! Oh, wait a minute, that's the door I started from. Okay, this is the only way in. Let's do it. So they push on it, and it opens just fine. And that was another concerning theme of this place. Every door they came to was unlocked. That's like inviting them in. They come into my parlour. And they went through, and then they came to another door which was unlocked, and they went through into a big hall thing, and there are broken weapons and shields, and things all strewn about, and they have to decide, are they going to go west or east? So they decide to go into what turns out to be a soldier's barracks, and they find, as they go, by the way, they start finding these notes in the place from Sir Greenthorn, saying, you know, I've tried to hold out as best as I could against the Orlesians, and the storyline goes that. What's that noise? Tried to hold out against the Orlesians as much as I can, and he's like trying to buy time for Queen Moira, King Kaelin's grandmother, to escape the Orlesians, which, you know, all of this happened like 29 years ago or whatever. So anyway, then they're finding these notes strewn around that explains all of this, Greenthorn leaving his last sort of information on the subject. And what do they find? There's barracks, and a barracks on the other side. One of the ways were barricaded. There were some undead skeletons. They crushed them so very easily, just ploughed through them. Got a few clues to what's going on, really, with the place. The whole place smelt of the Fade to Amelia. She didn't like that at all. And she felt, well, this place has been in the Fade, and it's come out of the Fade. That's awful news. And they keep going up and find a library with more sort of notes that give details about what's going on. Obviously, check the file if you want to see what all those handouts are. They're like at the end of the file. And then they eventually come to an encounter room, a final encounter. And what happens is they find a corpse on a chair, and they find Aldrich Lapointe tied to a chair, and a spirit of duty standing over him, and he's beaten him quite badly. And the group come in, and he's like, "Oh, okay, so this confirms it then." And the group say, "What are you talking about?" And they start to get the idea from talking to Duty that he's become very, very confused, because the original person who pursued Sir Greenthorn was Aldrich Lapointe's grandfather, whatever, and the Chevalier that did that. And he now has, like, Greenthorn's sword as well. And when he saw this man come back through, and he knew he was the blood of the Orlesian who'd pursued Sir Greenthorn and had the sword on him, he had to act. So he basically explained, you know, I ripped the Fade back open, brought the tower back to get you, to stop you. The Orlesians are attacking again, because basically the spirit of duty was so impressed, taken aback, and compelled to do something when he saw how nobly Sir Greenthorn fought to hold the Orlesians off in that fighting retreat. And they get attracted to, these spirits get attracted to people who hold the same qualities that they exhibit and imbue in their entirety. And so his guy's obviously dead, Sir Greenthorn, but he brought the whole tower back just to come get at this Lapointe, who he knows, you are the Orlesian blood. You're back to do this. And the group had to explain, look, the war's not over anymore. That ended a long time ago. And he's like, look, how do I know I can trust you? And he said, well, you tell me, how. And he offers, well, okay, we'll join hands, and then we'll test your words, the validity of what you are saying. So they all join hands. They agree to join hands with him. And he takes them on a vision sweeping over Ferelden, and they see the truth, the current king. And then they go down into the Korkari wilds, and they get a clue to loads of darkspawn. They're just swarming up out of the ground, all over the land. And so they get their big clue there of the blight coming, and that's one interesting thing there for the group to have discovered. So then he says, well, I've been a fool, haven't I then? I'll have to let this man go. And so he lets him go. At this point, the group starts saying, well, you know what? You don't have a host right now. What about one of us? And they all like want a piece. They all want the spirit of duty to enter them and aid them. They don't know what a huge commitment this is. And so they all say, what about us? And he looks at each of them in turn and dresses them down. So first he comes to old Yellow Eye, Pete's character, the Talbot pirate, and he says, you're a pirate. You're a villain. All you've ever done is hurt other people. And he said, yes, I had my duty to my captain. That's the duty I held. And he said, yeah, but what about when you used to be captain of the ship before you handed it over to Scarbelly to stop the mutiny that you knew was going to happen? And you knew that was the only way to live. What about that? You used to be the captain. What was your duty to then? It was to greed. So he had him there. Then Karak was said, well, what about me? And he said, you are unavailable. And then he looked at Tanador. He said, well, what about me? And he said, well, you don't even have a purpose in life, let alone a duty. You've walked through life so long now that you've seen everything. You're damaged. Your mind is damaged. Your spirit is damaged. And your body is being ravaged as a result. And the path you walk leads only to your demise, senseless violence. You will die as you lived. There is no duty to be found in that. And then Amelia says, and what about me? And he says that Amelia's kind of a complicated one, that there are mixed elements, but he can't completely rule Amelia out. And he says, I see potential for your future to hold destiny. And though your past has been one of destiny, I see your future potential may, but it may not work out that way. Here's what we will do. I will watch you. I will disappear back and watch you from the other side. And you will prove to me in that time that you are what you say you are and will continue to be, and you will continue to grow into the person that you claim. And if you let me down, if you fail to be that, then I instead will consider you an enemy and punish you accordingly for wasting my time even monitoring you. And so, this is a big deal here. Put this on Amelia. So Amelia has to hold to this obligation of keeping duty at the forefront there in her actions. And before they leave the spirit, and he goes, he says, look, you still need to get out of here. And the problem is the way back will be different now to the way coming here. Bearing in mind, I'd closed the laptop at this point, and all the guys knew that the module as written was over. We were now in my crazy territory. So something I had designed to convert it over actually from something else and brought into the age system. I'll be able to show you that soon. And the group were told, look, there's still the matter of her, basically. So they left and they had to figure that out, what that meant. And on their way back, they started to see that things were differently. And they went down one flight of stairs and they came to a balcony that overlooks a main cathedral thing. And there's stained glass windows all the way around. And on this upper balcony section, they go forward and they find this dreg of a man. He's just like crouched and praying and to himself like that. And they go up and speak to him and, what are you doing? Are you hungry? And he says, I don't need food anymore. He's really creepy and malnourished looking. And they say, why don't you need, well, bloody hell. And so they figure, yeah, this guy's obviously some sort of spirit or something, but he's a real broken husk of a man. And the whole thing turns to violence basically from Tanador, and he's like, I'll cut his head off. And it's like, yeah, I'll spare him from the torment he's going through. And Garak's like, yep, pop his top off, like that. And he goes to attack him. Amelia steps in, and Morfin comes down. They do a weapon check against each other, and Amelia blocks him. Her blade comes out and stops Tanador's blade, just inches from this guy's neck. And she says, he hasn't done anything to earn your wrath. Give him a chance. And that sort of thing. But it soon becomes clear that he's too crazy to help. But he looks at the violence and giggles, basically the potential for the violence, and he tells them, look, I don't mean you any harm. I'm not going to hurt you. Like that. I'm not going to hurt you. Yeah, he's all about helping. He's a good guy. Don't you think? Good guy like that is a good guy. Good guys tend to be. Not making sense will make sense next video. Right. The group leave him be, and they come downstairs, and they come down to the main room, and they open the door to the main cathedral. And there you've got the aisle going up, and the pews all along the way, and they can see these dreg things, these similar to the guy upstairs, just shuffling around and in their piteous manner that they are, just wandering about the place. They're about to go in, and it's like, boss encounter imminent, and the session had to stop. You gotta love it when that happens, don't you? It had to, though. It had to. People had buses to get and this sort of thing. It's a shame, isn't it, when you know there's not enough time to do what you've got to do, and you've had to stop them. You said, well, you wanted warning. They've told you how long they've got then, so you've got to play to that, haven't you? So next session we will find out exactly what the group is facing inside that room before they can get back out of the tower. And of course what this is going to lead to, because you don't think this big mess in the mountains is just going to be left at that, do you? Magic on that scale, when it is cast, has huge consequences. I'll see you at the table.